Thank you, everyone, for those of you who are here, both in person and online. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day. We're almost evening now to learn more about New Homes for Stella Link. We've got a packed agenda, and we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. And so I want to start off by actually passing the mic over to Assistant Director of HCDD, Ray Miller.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Good evening. Thank you, everybody, for attending this evening. First, I also want to say thanks for the Harmony School of Ingenuity to provide the space for us tonight to meet and congregate right next to the site that we're talking about this evening. So thank you for providing this. And what we're here to do tonight is to take input and feedback from those of you within this community, the people who we're going to serve, and find an opportunity to get input on design aspects. What do you think? What do you feel? How will this proposed development make this home to the people that are going to be here tonight? So we're excited to talk to you. We're excited to present. We have several things, formats to talk about. We're going to be breaking out into sessions. Jeremiah is going to provide some instructions how we're going to do that tonight. But the purpose of what we're here to do tonight is to get your feedback on how to make this housing opportunity successful for the people who live here and for the neighbors that are surrounding. So that's what we're going to do this evening, and look forward to talking to everybody and listening to the conversations tonight. But I would be remiss. I do want to give an opportunity for Vice Mayor Pro Tem staff to come and give a few words before we get started. Dee, do you want to say a few words?
Thank you, Director Miller. Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Yeah, good.
All right, thank you for you guys in person and also online. And on behalf of Vice Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Martha Cassex Tatum, welcome you to this meeting. We welcome to receive your input, as Director Miller stated, and encourage you to also visit the site if you haven't done so already for the New Homes for Stella Link. But again, take in the information that will be presented to you today. And again, we welcome your feedback and thank you for attending and for your time this evening.
I'm all right with y'all giving yourself a round of applause. You're all engaged in the community. We appreciate that. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So for those of you that are watching online, I'm going to be turning and moving. So there might be some delay as I make sure everyone's on the same page. So just give me some of your grace as we go through that. And just very briefly, here are the team members at HCDD. For those of you here in person, you've probably already seen most of us. And here's the other section of our team. Just a couple of housekeeping items. If you are joining us online, please have your microphone muted because we can hear you. And for everyone in person and online, we are recording this presentation. So if you sign in at the sign-in sheet and give us your email address, we will send this out to you as well as this PowerPoint deck we're going through. For those of you online, you can feel free definitely throughout the presentation to put your thoughts and comments in the chat, as that's how we'll hear your feedback tonight. Some of our staff, Ms. Olivia Christina Bush, and some other folks from HCDD are online monitoring that as well. And for those of you in person, if you have gathered some sticky notes, I think we have them scattered throughout the table. You can take the opportunity throughout our time together to write down your questions and your thoughts as we're going through the presentation. During the back half of this time together, we will make sure to have a deeper conversation. And if you haven't already, please sign up for our subscription or emails at New Homes for Cityscape. I'll have the link for that. That is where we're going to update information on this development as it moves forward. So just to give you all some context, what we're going to talk about here tonight. It's 4 bullet points, but I promise you this will go by pretty quick, at least this first half. This is divided into 2 sections. The part where it's probably a little boring for y'all, where I'm talking at you, and then the back half, the last 30 minutes, we'll have a conversation amongst all of us to get your feedback. So we're going to talk about the project background, talk about the community engagement work that we're doing, which all of you are here tonight as a part of. We'll talk about the key questions that will help us design a strong, vibrant neighborhood at New Homes for Stella Link. And then we're going to go into that breakout group sessions, both in person and online. So this development is funded by the Harvey Single Family Development Program, and that is in of itself funded through Community Block Grant Development disaster recovery, or CDBG DR funds. It just rolls off the tongue. Essentially, bottom line, this is a program funded through some of the money that was allocated after Hurricane Harvey. Specifically, this program is to help replenish the stock of homes that we lost during the hurricane. And it has three main programmatic areas that the city has wanted to make sure is enshrined in everything that we do with this funding. The first of which is to create homeownership opportunities, but also make sure that those opportunities meet the community needs where we will be developing or helping to develop, and make sure those homes are available for a variety of incomes. And one of the things we're going to talk about is, I think something we all know is how hard, how unattainable purchasing homes has become over the last few years. So going into the slide, what we're looking at here is the average sales price of homes just in the last 12 calendar months. And when you look at, this is the entire Houston metro area, you're seeing that a year ago today, if you wanted to buy a single family home, you're paying right under $370,000, and in less than a year, you're paying $411,000. That's an 11.4% increase. If you want to break it out by median sales price, we're looking at a 15.5% increase over the last 12 months. But as many of you know, and as I for sure know, every time I look at my bank account, my salary, my income is not going up 10% over the last 11 months, or 15% over the last 12 months. What we're looking at here are 4-person households and the average median income in the same area, same Houston metro area. And you can see from 2020 to 2021, if you're making 80% area median income for a Houston metro area, you only saw about a $300 increase in your total salary. If you're making 120%, so you're making above area median income, your salary for a household of 4 still only increased about $1,000. So again, combine that with the slides we just saw, and we know that incomes are not keeping up with sales prices for homes at Houston. And despite all that, we know that the explosion in home sales continues. So not only is it an issue of the home stock that we have now is just there's not enough, but it's still going, right? We know that it's home gets listed on hard.com, for example, it's on the market for 3 days and people are paying over that listing price. This is information I think we all know, but it's helping to really illustrate the need for this kind of programming in the city of Houston. And just to kind of wind down the numbers, I promise we're getting past this point in the presentation. But in this specific zip code, 77025, one thing that we found as we were doing research, we look at total occupied housing units, and this is from the ACS 5-year estimate. In the state of Texas, of all housing units, so that's single-family homes, townhomes, condos, rental units, every occupied unit in the state, 62.3% of folks own their home, the residence that they're living in. When you look at Harris County as a whole, that number drops, but it's still above 50%. It's at 55%, essentially, 55.9. When you look at this specific zip code, what we see is that's underwater, that flips. So what you have when you go out to HEB or Kroger's or Randall's, whatever your grocery store choice is, I won't tell you what mine is, it's HEB. When you go to HEB, you're more likely to run, when you're shopping with your neighbors in your community in this zip code, you're more likely to run into folks who are renting where they live. And like as you can see here, that is again opposite of what Texas and Harris County as a whole is seeing. So all that said, that's the need. I think deep down, well, we've all seen these kind of articles, we've all read this kind of information from time to time. So let's talk about the actual development here at Stella. Which, for those of you in person, if you want to take a look right outside the window, that's literally what we're looking at here. So if you're here in person, I think you know that this is along Stella Link Road and by Willow Bend Avenue along Highway 90. The site itself, if you're, and when you're looking online, or if you're looking at this map here on the left, it's those of you online, it's that red highlighted area. It's approximately 12.2 acres. And these 2 bullet points I want to make abundantly clear. We, the city, are in due diligence process. So these numbers are subject to change based on what we learned during due diligence. So I'm going to point to the stars again. So please don't Don't get mad or email me if these numbers change because they might. We don't know. We're doing our due diligence. We're going to talk about that more in detail. But we project as of now where we are in our due diligence process that we can see up to 194 total homes, and 99 of those will be sold at attainable prices, which we're about to talk about what that means. So this is our development process. We spent a lot of time as a program team, those first couple of slides of our smiling faces, looking at different sites that can support at least 150 homes throughout the city of Houston. And we looked at a whole bunch of different selection criteria, including was the site actually available for sale, right? Was it in a 100-year floodplain or floodway because we weren't going to build there? What kind of access to community amenities? Those kind of questions. And we, one of the sites, one or two that we're moving forward on right now is this site, Stella Link. So right now we're at step 2, which is gathering your community feedback. And this is vitally important, and Ray did a great job of expressing that earlier. The feedback that we hear from you during this time period of March, when we kicked off through the end of this month, May 31st, we are going to take your specific feedback, and that is going to be wrapped up into item 3 when we issue a notice of funding availability for developers, or NOFA. One way to think about a NOFA is it's a rule book for the competition for developers to respond to. So your feedback will go directly into that NOFA and will be part of the scoring criteria that developers will need to respond to if they want to be awarded the opportunity to develop the homes here at Stella Link. So your feedback on green space design, green space layout, facade, important features like connectivity within the neighborhood that's going to be developed will be directly reflected inside that document. So step 4 will be the developer selected in October 22. It's going to be a 3-month open competition, and the highest, what we'll do is we'll evaluate. That's going to be all public information. And we'll come back to you and let you know when that competition is out, and we'll show you directly how your feedback fed into that NOFA. And then it's our intention to begin selling homes, likely in phases in fall of 2023, going through winter 2024. And again, with the important caveat that all dates are subject to change. So for those of you that are looking at this online, we have a big map version of this. I want to note again, this is all draft due diligence material. Every developer will submit their own preliminary site design. This is one we've produced. If each developer responding to the NOFA will produce their own version of this. This is actually a second draft version based off feedback we've already heard from the community. In our original draft version, we had both entrances and exits on Stella Link, and we heard from you that it'd be a much better design to have a exit going to Highway 90 feeder road, which is reflected here. So that's the kind of actionable feedback that we can put into a NOFA and have developers adhere or respond to. So let's talk about the future. In 2 years from now, when the homes are ready for sale, what does that process look like? I'm sure many of you are wondering. I referenced earlier, we're going to talk about what it meant to be attainable. So again, actually that should be 194. The number, again, we're doing due diligence. So that's going to, again, continuously change. But let's say for now, it's 194 homes are ready for sale, right? 2 years from now. All homes will be listed at market rate prices, whatever that market rate is at that point in time, forecasting 2 years out. And so you'll go on har.com or whatever case may be. You'll see the price or whatever the market rate is. If you're buying a home at a market rate price, which will be 49% of that market rate, this top side of the arrow for those of you that are watching online, you're going to go through the traditional home buyer process. You will secure a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. You'll work with your realtor. You'll have to show your debt to income ratios acceptable to that lender. Everything that you have to do to traditionally buy a home. And that is reflected here on this slide, that process. For the 51% of homes that are deemed attainable, you will also have to secure a fixed rate mortgage, whatever that 30-year fixed rate mortgage is. You will have to then show that you're impacted by Hurricane Harvey, which for the purpose of this program, and this is definitions that have been approved by City Council, by the State General Land Office, and by HUD. Harvey impacted means you have to live in the city of Houston on the date of Hurricane Harvey. You also have to show that you are currently at that point in time when these homes are for sale are earning up to 80% area median income. We'll have some information on that on our website on what that means and what that looks like. If you show that, you will receive a down payment assistance from the city. This is part of the program design. And what that will look like is whatever fixed rate mortgage you're able to get, will pay the difference, the affordability gap between that and whatever the market rate price is. So I don't have exact numbers for you, right? There's some variables there. It's partially what the home buyer is able to secure. It's partially based off what market rate looks like 2 years from now. But we, with that down payment assistance, will go and close that affordability gap. Again, going back to those slides about how salaries aren't matching what home prices look like right now. And then you're going to, in exchange for that, you will agree to a 5-year secondary lien on your home, and you'll continue the traditional home buyer process from there. So to sum this up, I want to be 100% clear. These are all single-family home ownership opportunities. All of your neighbors will have secured a fixed-rate mortgage. All of them will be homeowners, unless you specifically ask your neighbor if they receive down payment assistance. You will have no way of knowing whether or not your neighbor did receive that assistance. And to talk a little bit more about that AMI homebuyer profile, we put together a couple of examples, partially driven from my life and from our staff's lives. So in this example, we have a young couple and they're married in their mid-20s. They're just graduating from college and they have a young infant. They're in the mid-20s because it took them a little while to get through college because, as we all know, that's also getting way more expensive. So they are just starting their real careers, right? You have one person who's an admin assistant, and low salary for an admin assistant in the metro area, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, is about $22,000. You also have a firefighter, and that's also lower end, starting at your career as a firefighter. This couple and this infant would qualify for our program to receive whatever that affordability gap and down payment assistance looks like, because they would earn less. They would earn up to 80% area median income, which at this point in time is a max of $57,050. In this example, we have what we call a full house, and yes, I did reference the old TV show. So you have a nuclear family of 4, 2 parents, 2 children. You also have an uncle living in the household. That uncle is a 100% disabled military veteran, so he is receiving up to about $40,000 in his income. And you have one parent who stay at home, and you have one worker, an inspector, and that's the median income salary for an inspector in Houston, about $42,000. That stay-at-home parent, you have 2 young children. This household of 5 would qualify for our program because they earn up to 80% area median income, which right now is $83,650. And we'll take some time for questions at the end. What will happen here is that, again, these numbers, these 8% area median income numbers, are updated yearly by HUD. So those numbers are going to change too. So we don't control what that 8% looks like, but this is just a snapshot of what the program would do now if those homes are available for sale today. So I'm getting to the point where we're wrapping up my part, and we're about to get your thoughts on how this development here at Stella Link should look. So our community engagement piece has been going on since late March, and we are in what we call a comment period, which will be online and in person. All of you here in person, all of you online. We also have a free online virtual tool, which we'll show you in just a minute. And we're going to have a recap session. Once we get all your feedback and we're able to capture it, write it down, categorize it, and put it into a notebook, we're going to come back out here to the community. And we're going to show you how that feedback translated into the notebook so you can see that for yourselves. And we'll also have updated timelines and more information once our due diligence is complete as well. So we've been doing outreach. You may have seen some of these flyers, some of these banners. Our social pinpoint site, which is our free online virtual tool, will be up through the end of the month, through the 31st. There's 3 aspects of it, and we're going to have a demonstration of that just before we break out. There's 3 options: a map tool that looks like this, and again, there'll be a demonstration, an ideas wall, which is very Facebook-like, and a survey tool. All of these features here, the wall and the map, are socially engaging. You can like and dislike comments that are there. You can leave your own comments. So if you see an idea that maybe you hadn't thought of before, but like, yeah, that sounds really good, you can give it a thumbs up. Alternatively, if you think that doesn't sound great, you have an alternative, for that idea, you can give it a thumbs down. And we're going ancient Greece style democracy. The ideas that float up from you, from the community, are the ideas that the top ranked ideas, I should say, are the ideas that will go into our NOFA. These are the key questions we're going to talk about online and in person. So the first question we want to ask you all to start thinking about is design in context. These are all homes that were on the market on par.com in March within roughly a 1 mile radius of this site. And we want to ask you, what characteristics give nearby homes in this community the look and feel? Think about, we're looking at these pictures of different colors, the way the trees and vegetation look. As you drive throughout Houston, for example, when I drive through the near north side, which I live very close to, that look and feel of the near north side is very different than our other development at Cityscape Avenue, which is very different than here. So we want to hear from you about the important designing and context features that can help that this development right outside here feel like it's part of the neighborhood. So just say it in a different way, what makes a house or home feel like it's part of the community. We also want to talk about density and good design. So part of the slides earlier, all those numbers, we know that housing is expensive. We know there aren't enough attainable units. So how can we use one of the precious resources, which is dwindling amount of land, developable land that's on a floodplain or under your floodway, close to neighborhood communities? How can we max that out in a way that gets us the most number of units, but also make sure that it fits in with the community aesthetic? We also want to talk about designing for connection. So how do you want to get move around within your neighborhood and connect to the assets outside of the neighborhood? And we're also going to talk about communal space. So as part of this design, when you look at that map, for those of you here in person on the left, and then screenshot of that map earlier, we had two giant chunks of essentially green space. What that green space looks like is up to y'all, right? Do you want to see trees? Do you want to see a playground? What are the connecting assets that can help make this neighborhood feel like a neighborhood? You want to see gazebos like this on this slide. That's information we can take from you, summarize it, and put it into the notebook. And even within, if you can see, for those of you in person, you kind of have to squint, but you can see little pockets of green space in between those rows of townhomes. You want to see something that looks like this. So this is an opportunity for all of y'all to be as creative as possible and give us your feedback. So we're going to go ahead and start getting into the process of doing our breakout session. For those of you online, we're going to use a tool called Jamboard, and you're going to have an online facilitator to walk you through that process. For those of you in person, we're going to use these easels to facilitate that. And right now, what I'm going to do is go ahead and show you our landing page, where we're going to update on this development as we get more information. I'm going to show you that social pinpoint tool as well. Again, if you signed in here in person or if you registered online, we're going to send you this PowerPoint presentation and this recording in the next probably about 3 business days. It takes us a little bit of time to upload and report or these recordings. So before I go into the presentation, I wanted to give you all some ideas of actionable feedback that we can take from you tonight and through the social pinpoint tool. These are actually comments that are already on the social pinpoint tool. So for example, someone mentioned, most of this I copied and pasted verbatim unless there's a little too smart, a desire for homeowners association. Someone specifically mentioned that they want to make sure that this development follows walkable places and livable places, all the work the city has done with that initiative. Someone else mentioned that they see the value in having bike lanes moving within the neighborhood. And others, very kind of 10,000 foot view, they want to make sure that green space is available for walking, playing, maybe a pool. So again, that's up to whatever you all want to see here out of this development. And with that, I'm going to sit down here in front of all of y'all, and I'm going to pull up the social pinpoint site. All right, so this is our landing page for New Homes for Stella link. If you'd like, you can also subscribe for our email list here on this button. But this is some project information that we talked about already. Here's a slide, PDF on what area median income looks like right now. Again, that's going to be updated throughout our time. We do have 2 more of these meetings. It's going to be kind of the same content we have here tonight. But if you have friends, family, neighbors that you think would like to participate, they can you can send them this information. Right. And we also have an FAQ. So ideas and questions that aren't necessarily something we can put in the NOFA, but you want to hear more information about, feel free to write that down. And we're going to have a section in our parking lot, literally on our easels here and then online, where we can take your questions, your FAQs, and that's going to be some of the information we send back out to you at a future date. So the social pinpoint tool, take just a second to load. This is a free tool. Again, it's 24/7. And this is the mapping tool. And you can see that has the boundaries of the neighborhood. And these are some of the ideas that I've already posted. So this is the idea about walkable places. You can see you have a like and a dislike button. In order to post your own idea, all you have to do is take one of these three icons, gather idea or feels like home, click, drag, and you can put whatever your idea is here. Okay? So I'm not going to put an idea here for now because I'm kind of twisted sideways. Type in whatever your comment is, put in your email address, and that's just to make sure we don't have bots. And then hit I agree, my comment can be used, and add comment. And it will be instantaneous. It's going to pop up right in front of you. So you can do that as many times as you like. We also have the survey tool. It's a brief survey. It's 4 questions, English and in Spanish. And we also have this optional third question. If you have an interest in seeing an HOA in this community, you select yes. It's going to give you a pop-up question where you can provide specific feedback that you want to see in that HOA. Because HOAs, as all y'all probably know, have a whole bunch. There's a whole variety of HOAs and rules and enforcements they have. So if you want to see an HOA, you can let us know what kind of features you'd like to see. And then finally, the ideas wall, which I lost my mouse. Oh, this is a very kind of Facebooky looking feel. It's going to take you to a different link, but this is all city information. And you can click any of these 3 buttons and make a general feedback for people to like or dislike. Or you can't comment on it directly, but you also have that like and thumbs up and down, thumbs down button. So you can type in whatever you like, hit your email, click your box. You can also, if you're using this phone through your mobile app, for example, one thing that we saw before in previous developments, if there's like a park where there's a color of a, say, bakery down the street, it's a taqueria, if you want the home facade, for example, to look like that taqueria, you can take a picture of it and upload it and say, I want to see this shade of red. I want to see this shade of white. This is totally how creative you all want to be. We are agnostic about the features that will be here, other than we want to make sure it's going to be quality, disaster resilient, energy efficient homes. What that looks like is completely up to you. But mostly driven by you, I should say. So with that, that's the end of me talking. We're going to go ahead and do breakout sessions, both in person and online. We're going to start gathering your feedback. So for those of you who are online, you're going to be led in that conversation with one of our consultants, Askia Robinson, and also with our division manager, Olivia Bush. They're going to use that Jamboard tool. And for everyone here else in person, we're going to go ahead and split up into, I think, groups of 3. And we're going to start having that facilitated conversation with the rest of our time together. So for those of you online, this is the end of my time speaking with you. But thank you for joining us online. Please stay online. I'm just going to be talking to folks in person, and you'll be working with Olivia and with Askia Robinson. So thank you for joining online, and we look forward to reading your feedback.
Hello, everybody. Thank you again for joining us tonight. My name is Niharika with Asika Robinson, and I'll be a facilitator for the rest of our time together. My colleague Cecily also will be joining us in the chat room, and she's going to be taking out some notes. We're going to have a facilitated conversation through Jamboard. I'm just going to share my screen. And we're going to facilitate through this Jamboard, and we're going to just talk to you about the features of the development that you want to see. You'll have two ways to participate. You can either use the raise hand icon, which you can see on the top right corner of your Teams meeting, or you can just type in anything you want to say or converse about in the chat. If you use the raise hand icon, we'll call on you and you can unmute yourself and you can share your idea or agree with an idea, or you can even add on to an idea that's already there on a Jamboard. If you want to use the chat to provide ideas, you can give support to any of the ideas that have already been provided on the Jamboard. If you have any other questions about the development, please, that is beyond the topics of the discussion, please reach out to HCDD. I'm gonna be putting in the details in the chat, and you can send an email at this ID. Remember that summary of the feedback will be incorporated into the NOFA for developers to respond to. It will be a significant component, and the more specific you are tonight, the clearer the city will be in creating a notice of funding availability. As you're answering your questions, please be careful in thinking about what makes this important to you. And we're going to spend about 10 to 15 minutes per topic. But remember that the city has 2 more community meetings, as already mentioned. And you can always leave your feedback on the Social Pinpoint website that we just showed you. It's available 24/7 all the way through May 31st. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start the first question, and we have that here. So the first one is like, what makes a house or home feel like a part of the community? And you can speak it, you can chat, you can raise your hand and let me know, and we can start discussing it here. Um, as an example, like we can see pictures here, and if there's a certain neighborhood that you've seen in Houston and you like certain aspects of it, if it's something as simple as trees with, less leafy trees or shaded trees, or if something like that draws your attention, if it's something as simple as the light or the color scheme and the tones of the entire neighborhood that you're interested in, um, what kind of place do you want for your pets and kids to have? Just tiny aspects that make your home or house feel like it's part of a community. We would like to hear that.
May I ask a question? Am I understanding, this is Barbara Height with Council District K. Am I understanding that if an individual would like their home to be a certain color, they can choose a color that would be different than, they're not all the same, they don't all look identical is what I'm trying to ask, I guess.
That's something that we will decide on later on. It's just what speaks to you right now. We're considering, and if something is a color or an aspect that speaks to you, you can sure put in the chat right now. And we're not just wanting to hear about just the exterior. You can talk about the interior of the house as well. If there's a certain kind of bedroom or space inside the house that also means to you, and that will be something that we would be interested in the discussion. Bedrooms, windows, sorry.
Hi, my name is Desmond, and I'm with Houston Community Land Trust. But I wanted to just add, I think this presentation is great. Thanks for the examples. But I think one of the things that really, stands out when you think about community is something that Ms. Barbara said is the difference when it comes to houses. So I think that when they were Jeremiah was presenting the presentation, it was kind of, you had would it be detached, or would it be townhomes, or would it be duplexes or fourplexes? But I think it's kind of that variety. So I don't necessarily think that it should be necessarily one or the other. I think it would be great to see it, a few detached homes, a few townhomes, and then maybe there would be maybe a few fourplexes in different spots. So just some different things, because I know with some of the other houses that the city has built, they pretty much all look the same with the exception of color. But I also think one of the things is a community, it kind of looks good when the cul-de-sacs, are kind of built, and it's kind of like the community is in this kind of huge circle, and then the doors are all facing the front, and then people kind of gather, and there's like this maybe little garden space or play space or green area in the center. Sometimes that makes it feel a little bit more like community, because people can kind of come out and talk about how their day was, or they can watch their kids play. So I'm not necessarily sure how that would look in the grand scheme of things, but I do think that that's something that comes to mind. And also, as well as greenery and lighting, I think one of the things that we don't have enough of here in Houston is lighting in the neighborhoods, especially with the uptick in crime that we've been seeing in the city. So extra lighting. That's when you go to some of these cities like San Diego and they have the light district. We don't have those kind of little special things here in Houston. So that would be nice to see.
Thank you, Ken. But does anybody else have anything to add to that or agree to that?
I've got a question. Do you know the lot sizes of these homes?
Um,
So hi, this is Olivia Bush with the large truck team. We have not established a lot size. What we are asking that the developer, you know, we're looking at, a townhome community, approximately 194 homes. So that would restrict the size of the lot. So depending on, whether we're looking at one, two, 3, or 4 bedroom units, we'll probably go up to about 1,900 square feet lot. And that is actually mandated by our funding stream. So we have oversight with the Texas General Land Office, and within those guidelines, it restricts us to the size of each lot.
So Ms. Bush, so are you saying that it has already been decided that the homes will be townhomes?
It's our goal to maximize the site, so maximize the amount of homes we can get on the site. So we felt with the lot size restriction, townhomes is the most attractive, but we are open to your, like you said, your feedback. And so if we see resoundingly this community makes more sense for single family detached, we will take that under advisement and provide that information to the Texas Land Office.
I think it's great. I think that one of the things that, if that's the direction, I think that's awesome. I would probably say again, make it a little bit, mix it up a little bit. And so while there might be some 2-story townhomes and then there might be some 3-story townhomes. But I think again, just kind of giving that variety would really help as far as creating that sense of community.
We definitely appreciate that feedback, and we're taking note of it. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I heard you say this is. I heard Harvey money, and then I heard you say GLO. So you're going by GLO specs, but what does the GLO have to do with this project?
So the way it works is when municipality, cities and counties receive a certain dollar amount of funding, the HUD requires a intermediary that acts as oversight for those grant funds. And as we know, Harvey was a wildly devastating storm, and we, as a city, received several $billions. So we are the actual recipient of the grant directly is the Texas General Land Office, and the City of Houston is a subrecipient. So the Land Office administers the grant, and they do oversight for the city as well as the county. And that's why they have issued guidelines, like you said, building specifications, as their role as the recipient. And as a subrecipient, it's our responsibility, and we're required to adhere to not only their guidelines and also HUD regulations.
Let's talk a little bit about the inside of the home. How is that going to look? Do you have anything about that?
No, that's the purpose of this conversation. If there are any, are there any design requests? It's going to have to, of course, we have to be within reason. But what are you suggesting?
Well, I was wondering, are y'all looking at the possible the open plan? Living, kitchen, breakfast area combination. If that was something that your thoughts were.
That's going to be up to the community and the developer. So we're informing the developer based on what the community wants. So if an open concept kitchen is the desired floor plan, then let's take note of that, and then that's something we can pass on to the developer.
Well, and talking about that, do you know, I mean, are there multiple developers or going to
No,
be
we haven't
building?
gone through that. We haven't gone through that process yet. We
Okay,
once, yeah, we're gonna have an open competition for developers to submit applications, and that's why we're going through this process now. Because when we write up our bid, we're gonna have all of your input in there. So it's very important that we get as much feedback right now during this process as possible.
okay. Well, I heard the gentleman say that it would be nice to have a mixture of townhomes, a 2, 3 story, and single family homes. But if that's the case, are you going to have more than one developer doing that?
No, it'll be one developer for the entire site.
Okay, thank you.
So actually going back to that, would the developer be able to, if even if that was a possibility, because I know a lot of times the developers with the cities, that it has been just single family homes. So would the developer even be able to do a different style of home or multiple styles of home?
The developer would have to have that, let me say, that skill set, because what typically we see is a developer will hire different builders. So
Okay.
that's why you may see a variety, and the developers overseeing the project of the builders. So um, because this is a major project, it's a large scale project. We're going to select a developer with the capacity to handle both single family detached and townhomes. So we need to make sure that we give them an idea of what we want the homes to look like that are similar to the aesthetics in the neighborhood themselves, or how would you like, if you were going to buy a house, what do you want your house to look like? So that's why we were going through this process to get as much information as possible. So when we say the look and feel of the house, what do you want to see? How would you, if you were to design your own home, this HGTV time, what do you want your house to look like?
I would definitely say that I think it's important when, again, if we're talking about a home and community, which can be two different things, I think that it's important that these homes have a distinguished dining or eating space aside from just an eat-in island. I know that's one of the bigger things now as far as contemporary style, but I think that when we look at gatherings for birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, people need to be able to accommodate families and extended families and friends in a space other than just the eat-in island. And so then, and the space actually has to be bigger than just a breakfast nook. So if that even means, and I don't know how that looks design wise. So it might, if you're talking about townhomes, it would mean building upwards. And I also think that it's important that these townhomes actually have garages. I know
Yeah.
that.
So that's the proposed. If we go with the townhome style, to your point, if we do single family detached, you're going to look at a smaller house. So there might be some combined space. But for a townhome, we can go 3 levels. And so you might have the separate living and dining rooms as you desire on one level, and then a second and a third, where the actual bedrooms. So that's just something to keep in mind when we're talking about design and making sure that the livable space doesn't feel cramped in 1,900 square feet.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, well, I've got a question about where the homes are going to be. What about have anything? Has there been a traffic study on how these homes are going to impact the streets around the community?
So we are in the process of conducting the traffic study. The traffic study will take into account the development itself, how the traffic will flow within the development, the 12 acres, as well as 1 mile radius outside of the development.
I think
Uh,
I just want to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say that we will have some of those questions that are outside of this NOFA competition or the information we're gathering for the NOFA. We may have to parking lot, but I want to just give you a quick answer. So if there are any other questions regarding how the home makes, the look and feel of the home, we could probably move to the next question. I just want to make sure we've kind of captured all that.
I did have one other comment, is that I do think that maybe it might be a good idea to have the townhomes that are on the exterior side facing the streets, or maybe facing the freeway, actually face. Maybe they'd be developed like a street comes in front and they actually face outward as opposed to inward. Depending on, it just again depends on how the communities are set.
So the front door of the house to face Stella Lee.
It depends on how. It just depends on how. Because so some communities you come in, there's actually a street in front of the house. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I don't. It's kind of hard to explain, but I see it. I see it a lot. If you're familiar with Chimney Rock,
Mm-hmm.
if you know how there's Chimney Rock, but actually when there's a street when you turn in, and so those kind of townhomes that they still have the community feel, but their fronts are facing outward as opposed to in the yard or the green spaces is actually behind. I don't know how to explain it.
I think I know what you're saying. You're saying where the interior, the front doors or maybe porches will kind of face interior in the interior street, so that if I open up my front door, I'm looking at my neighbor's front door, and you can give a community feel. And
Yeah.
the backyard would, and that would also give some privacy. Your backyard would face like the major exterior, a border of the property, like Stella Link, and anyone who may be on, the side with school and around, and maybe all the way to Highway 90, that feeder. So I think I understand what you're saying.
Okay, that's it.
Okay. Any other responses before we move on to the next question? These houses sound adorable. They really sound like they have uniqueness and personality.
If anybody else wants to add something, you can also add it in the chat. Any other parts of the conversation?
So that last response or feedback was you want the neighborhood to look unique and have a little bit of personality, like a theme or a feel that's unique to this development.
Okay, so I guess we can move to the next question then. The next question we want to discuss: how can we make slightly denser developments like townhomes feel like they belong? And you could just discuss what we've already discussed that is relevant to this question. Are there examples of townhomes that you like or don't like that you have seen around Houston? What are their features? It could just be that density does not have to mean that they don't feel homey. Are there features that could attribute to that homey-like feeling in a community?
I only have one comment for this particular section, but I think that it's very important for some particular reason. People like to sit, even if they have a back porch, they like to sit in the front of their home, and so I think it can really benefit communities to have that front porch feel, or at least some type of covering so they can put a chair or some kind of table. And I think it's just about being communal. And so people like to chat with each other and people like to people watch. So I think that would go a really, really long way. And I know a lot of houses these days and a lot of developments don't have a front porch. They'll have a covering for the front door, but there's really not a front porch.
Are there any colors that come to your mind when you're looking at a cohesive community? And if you're looking at density, is there a number of stories that comes to your mind as well? Anybody has anything to add to that?
Yes, I hate to keep same thing, but I do think that we should be looking at we're a city that floods. So I think that we should really start looking at building up. It's taken us Houston a long time to get to that place. So I definitely think that 3 stories is definitely sufficient, because no matter what you might have at the bottom, that still allows families to be able to utilize two other floors to live in, even if they, heaven forbid, there's a flood and they need to make repairs at the bottom. But it's taken our city a very long time to get to a place where we're actually building up or to even consider townhomes. So that's my opinion on that.
Okay. And is there something like fencing or any kind of landscaping that anybody has any input on?
Well, I like the townhome picture that you have there, where there's fencing, that wrought iron fence right in front, and that goes to the gentleman's point about the front porch. I think that would give them a sense of belonging. This is mine, you know. Uh, I just think that it would be nice if there was a fence there,
Okay.
so that
The
there would
Texas
be
State
boundaries.
the Texas State Legislature has made it a rule that we can all put fences all around our property, even in the front of the house. So I think a lot more people are going to want to be doing that.
Or, Ms. Bush, I don't know if this is an option for someone, but I know that when you start looking at density and the square footage, possibly even look at maybe if there are some units, you're still trying to squeeze in some units, but there's no room for the backyard. There might be families who don't mind having a rooftop patio. And so where it might take away some of the backyard space because they don't have any, but they might, if you could do a rolled roof, a flat roof. We see, of course, you don't see that here in Houston very much. You see that more in Chicago and different other areas, but that's an option to still do that townhome style but you know, create more density as far as what you can fit in. I guess, flat roof as far as the patio.
That's a good suggestion. Also, we are asking that the developers incorporate green space. Some of the green space will double as, impervious cover and detention to soak up, any possible water. So there will be, and I think that's one of the next questions coming up. With that green space, we might have room for like a little dog park or walking trail. It's like a little, I think it's 0.8 acres of possible green space within the development. So if you won't have, like a proper yard, you may have a little bitty back patio, but there'll be green space within the development.
What about balcony? I know
I would put that in there.
What about balcony for those townhomes?
Definitely.
I think that balcony was a really good suggestion. When you talk about when Ms. Bush says, trying to make the 1,900 square feet feel as big as possible. So adding, like having that a balcony space, even if it's just for one of the bedrooms, I think that's a really great idea.
Are these anticipated to be 3-bedroom homes or 2-bedroom or 4-bedroom?
It's our intention to do a mix of 2s, 3s, and 4s.
Okay. Really sounds charming.
Oh, but I want to ask the question. Would you kind of consider these as starter homes? I heard them talking about the young people and all, but would you consider these starter homes for young people?
It could be that, or it could be someone downsizing and just wants, a home with less maintenance.
Less maintenance, yes. Okay, thank you.
Harika, there are two comments in the chat. One is a dog park and the other one is backyard.
Are the homes having attached garages?
So,
And are they 2-car garages?
we have some, suggested designs. Ultimately, it's up to the developer to submit a design model that will be used to score their application when we go through the notice of funding availability or that bid process called NOFA. We do feel like the most ideal would have a garage, like you said, on the first floor and then build up.
Yes. That's okay. That would be a 2-car garage.
It would depend on the size of the house. So could you imagine, say the 4 bedrooms would have 2 cars, and then maybe the 2 bedrooms would have a smaller footprint. The development does allow for some street parking. Okay.
I would like to suggest that something that really troubles people is when their driveways are short and they pull up to their home and their car is partially over the sidewalk, and then they get in trouble with law enforcement. I would like to suggest that we not do that to people because they can't fit their vehicle on their driveway if they want to park there, and that's troublesome. In other words, they should have a driveway long enough to accommodate a family car.
Okay, does anybody else have anything to add to this question, or we can get to the next one? Okay. So the next one, we want to discuss how can green and communal spaces help build the community. We can just talk about what kind of green spaces you want to have, if there's any kind of structure or shading that we're looking at. We can also talk about activities that you would want under these structures, such as celebrating birthdays or any kind of, community activity. If there's any kind of structure you've seen in another park or even in some kind of school playground that you like and want to talk about, you can suggest that as well.
So I wanted to just suggest that the water retention area be utilized a little bit more effectively. And so if they could actually possibly plant trees around the water retention area, or at least maybe put like a little walking pavement around it or walking trail around it, since since it's not going to be a lot of land to actually use that um, more intentionally. And Ms. Bush, do you know how many? Is it just one water retention area going to be for this particular area, or is it going to be more than one?
No, we're looking at an area in the front of the development. I'm saying the front would be the side of the development that faces Stella Link,
Mm-hmm.
and then another water detention area toward the back facing Highway 90.
Okay. I'm not even sure if, well, more than likely they couldn't be because they're so far apart, but it would be nice to see if they could be combined by some kind of sidewalk or trail or something like that. That way it allows those spaces to be kind of, connected, and the neighbors kind of feel like they're connected as they're walking along those trails. I do feel like that if personally, I think the other space, green space, should be used either for probably just a general community space like a pavilion space, and if there can be a little piece of it where there's a dog park, then I think that would be great. That's actually fenced in for the dog, so the dog owners can actually let their dogs off the leashes, and the dogs can get off the leashes. And just kind of run and play around. But I really think that if that water, and I don't know why they do that here in Houston, but if the water retention area is actually going to be facing the street, why not plant trees so that way you're not looking at a big hole in the ground?
Great idea. People are so interested in trails now that connect communities, and I think that's a great idea to consider trails so that you get from point A to point B and have a walking trail to get there, or a bike trail or something, kind of trail.
I think we got a question in the chat.
Is there a question on the chat? I actually don't see.
You can come off mute.
Hi, KG, do you have anything to say? So does anybody else have any other kind of green shaded structure that we're looking at to include? Or even if you have activities, any kind of activities that you want, and we can think of the structure for those.
What kind of activities are you suggesting?
Any kind of communal activities, do you think having picnic style tables, or I mean, I don't want to suggest it. I want you to like just suggest something that we could add. Maybe we've not thought of something. If there's any kind of landscaping or even like species of trees or something you want, we can even go in that direction.
Will there be landscaping that is provided for these homes and at least partially, if not totally, landscaped with a tree, with the grass, with a bush or two? Is there anticipated landscaping?
Yes, of course. I mean, I'm writing down your suggestions.
I think that we need that there needs to be possibility of picnic tables so that people can gather with their family and with kids. And are you going to have like a playground out there for the kids?
Yeah, good idea.
I just wanted, sorry to interject. Sorry, this one thing is that I know they were mentioning HOAs earlier, and I know that some of the HOAs, if that is developed, which I think it should, because it actually is what upkeeps the exterior of the community, and we see what happens when exterior of communities are not kept up. Um, but the HOA in some neighborhoods now is actually designed where they up the HOA somehow they're in charge of upkeeping the front of everyone's houses, and that the property owner, the homeowner, is only responsible for upkeeping the back. I know that may or may not go in this particular section, but I just wanted to input that because some that it really helps the community, and a lot of times it really helps the homeowners keep up their property value and not have to worry about front yard maintenance. And so they do all of the landscaping, and I'm sure that the HOA association, they contract with the company, and part of those fees that they pay, a part of the HOA is contributes to that. But it actually, I've seen it, and you can tell a community where everything just looks almost perfect.
That is correct.
At least a civic association, if not an HOA.
A civic association doesn't have any power. That HOA has power.
Okay.
Thank you for that input. Is there anything else anybody wants to add to this topic? Okay, we can move to the next one. The next question we want to discuss, how can we build connectivity into these developments? We can talk about how the city wants to think about safety and walking and biking, connecting this property to the rest of the city. What are some of the features that you would want us to consider?
Believe it or not, what I've found to be very unique and very interesting is when an actual bus stop is put into the community, as opposed to it being on the exterior street. Of course, you know, bus metro and other them, they don't like that, but it helps because then people don't have to leave the community or step outside of the community to come to the exterior street. Like, so even if you talk about that one green space in the community, that a bus stop could actually be put there as it's strolling back to the exterior street. So that's just one particular idea.
Also, Metro is basically has started rolling out a curb to curb feature, and that might be something that this development might want to uh, be engaged with somewhere down the road. Because it will be done in the Five Corners area starting in August 2022. and that's going to be where they'll have a general area, and they will pick you up at your house and take you to the store. And it's
Wow.
for
Yes.
the same monies that the $1.25 like you would do the bus, but it's called curb to curb.
Yes. I would like to be sure that each street in this development has its unique name and that they're not all the same name, because there are developments where the streets are all the same name and you almost go crazy trying to figure out what street you're on or to receive a delivery from any source you may be using. There are definitely developments that have that, and you can go nuts trying to find your house.
That's a very nice addition. Yes.
There's a comment in the chat that says, I would be very concerned about the cost of an HOA. I'm dealing with HOA officers where I live that do not listen to the owners. Excessive HOA fees are a concern to a home buyer.
An HOA is more difficult to deal with. There's no two ways about it. They have more power.
And also, yes, they are. Ultimately, a lot of people don't like restrictions. However, when you look at in Houston, when you look at the neighborhoods that are nicer generally, and you look at the neighborhoods that have kept their property values up, almost always they have HOAs. If you look at the neighborhoods in Houston that are dilapidated, they are usually the only thing they have is a civic club. So I think it just will depend on what this community, what's important to this community. But HOA, so when you drive around Houston and you see grass like almost as high as the fence around
You're right.
the property, those are communities that don't have HOAs, and a lot of people get scared of HOA fees. However, even if your HOA is designed where the only thing you guys contribute or contribute or people contribute to is just the lawn maintenance on the exterior, it still helps to have it as opposed to not having it. And I think that's also a misconception. People think that HOAs have to be designed a certain type of way, and they don't. Even if
No.
you said, okay, our HOA we only collect $2 a year, that's possible. So it's just a conversation.
Yes.
Okay, I do have a question. Is this community going to be associated with a mud?
With a what?
A mud municipal
A mud. Oh, the mud.
utility
Okay.
district.
Right.
Yeah,
Municipal tax. Right.
right. Because that's going to be additional cost on
Yeah.
the
Oh,
community.
yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. If they have to pay a mud, that's going to be very oppressive.
I'll take note of that question. I have to look at where, how the city, this I think is well within the city limits. I don't know if you're be restricted by a mud district or how that would impact our development. And we will add that response to the FAQ section of the website.
It's very important. It's very important. That can make a huge difference in the family's ability to maintain their property properly.
Let me do some research on that, and I'll make sure that information is updated online.
Sometimes the developer is the one that will bring in the mud.
Okay. Good question.
Okay. So when we're thinking of connectivity, do we want to talk about safety? Safety features that help keep our streets safe. Speed bumps, stop signs. What do we want to do about that?
You definitely need stop signs.
Okay.
And this is not going to be a gated community. So are they going to want if they got HOA? Do you want to have private security touring around the property?
We
Private
haven't
security.
decided to be a gated community. Do you not want a gated community?
No, got gated is fine, but I nobody said if it was going to be gated or not.
No. Once it's gated, you can't get city services because they don't come in to service a gated community. You end up having private garbage pickup and private everything.
So there's a preference for a non-gated community.
It's terribly expensive. They should have city services. And Centerpoint should put up lighting. If Centerpoint doesn't put up lighting, the community would be responsible to buy the lighting in the neighborhood, and that gets pretty costly.
Does anybody
One
else?
could always
Sorry.
one could always request that each property has to have a gas light in the front yard or some kind of lighting, which certainly would keep the neighborhood lit up. At least one tree, at least sodding, and at least a gas light.
Okay. So moving on to the last question. Oh, what's the last question? Do we have anything else to add? Does anybody have any other comment, even if it's beyond the scope of these questions, that you want us to include? You can always use the chat feature to add it in as well.
I just want to say I'm personally impressed with the idea that everybody can make their property a little unique by either using a color or a brick or something that is unique to their home, so that they don't all just look like cookie cutter homes, um, which is a little oppressive, I think. It's nicer that everybody has something that's unique to them. I would think it makes more pride in what you have. Is there a requirement between using stucco and bricks?
Not our design. We don't have the design restriction
Okay.
on brick. It's just going to be an issue of cost.
Okay. I know that people who use stucco can certainly change the color of their home. Um, and brick has colors too, but I was just wondering, would the facade be brick and the rest of the house be hardy plank or something else? Just uh, what would make that house unique?
This may not go, but I just wanted to input, and I know it has to do with a cost. Well, everything has to do with the cost, but I think that it is makes a lot more sense to hopefully these houses can be done, at least the front facade can be done in brick. And the reason I say that is because a lot of times we look at homes at when they're new, but we don't look at homes, well, how homes will look in 20 or 30 years. And I think that
Right.
to save people money down the line, it makes it easier if the front facade is brick, so that way they
Right.
only have to maintain the side or the back or whatever the case may be.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And I think the permitting department might require that, depending on the floodplain that they may be in, that they do have to be elevated to some extent. just a new requirement in the city after all the flooding we've experienced. Are these gas homes, electric homes,
That's a good question.
or both?
Is there a preference?
Is that to be determined?
Yes, that will be determined later. But I was just asking if there's a preference, you can let us know.
Or an option to have gas or electric?
What we will do is see if we will collect feedback. If it's not a development feature that that's definitely a code question. When we start bringing in the utilities and the
Okay.
feasibility of it. So,
Okay.
but we can put it down. That's what she's asking you. Would you want a gas versus electric, or code?
Well, all electric houses would
Mhm.
cost the individual more money. So if you got the choice of, gas for maybe your cooking and electric for your central, that because of the hurricanes here in Houston, at least if you are without electricity, you could possibly still have gas to cook with.
Yes. Just curious. Just curious. Six of one, half a dozen of another.
So we are hitting at the 7 o'clock hour. So I think we just want to gather the last few, comments or any additional feedback, and then I'll give you back your evening.
Some of these things are personal choices. It's just that whatever the developers decide they're going to do is what you get.
And that's true. So what we're asking from the comments today, if we would suggest that you go to the social pinpoint site as well as to continue to add, and then some, eventually many of the comments will rise to the top. There'll be so many people that can say, yes, I really want garages, and those are the ones that are in high demand will be what will definitely be, taken, entered in and written into the NOFA, and it'll be a requirement for the developer who submits. Let me say this. The developer who submits their design plans or design concepts will be scored based on how well they listen to the community feedback. So the developers that don't respond or don't, create designs based on what the community needs and wants are putting themselves at a disadvantage to win the bid. So it would be advantageous for any developer to take into account all of the feedback received during all three of these sessions. So I would ask that
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, just continue to put your feedback either via website, social pinpoint, email us, so we can continue to gather. Because you may think of something to get off the call.
Okay.
We got one final comment. Does anyone have any last remarks before we shut it all down for the evening? Right. Well, that's lovely. I appreciate all your time. I appreciate this very, very spirited discussion. It just warms my heart to know that you were very much engaged in about your community, and we appreciate you giving us this information so we can better create a community with your feedback in mind.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, ma'am.
It sounds really very charming. It does.
It's my pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your evening and have a good night.